In this video, we're talking about branding for your business, when should you do it, why you should do it, and how you should do it. Hi, my name is Andrea Joshua and I'm from the Black Syndicate Collective. Today we're talking about branding for your business. So in my experience, branding is one of those things that people always do at the start of their business when it's not a priority, and then they don't prioritize doing branding when more down the track it actually becomes a priority. When you're starting your business, or if you're in the first year or two of your business, you shouldn't focus on branding. Spending all your time trying to figure out what color your logo should be, what kind of logo, what kind of text, how should I build my website, how should I dress when I take a picture for myself, so everything is in brand, everything is, aligned with my brand. Nobody cares. I'm like, seriously, like no one cares. What they care, especially at the start of your business when you're new, is what can you do for them? What kind of value can you bring? At the start of your business, you need to focus on value and delivery. Because when you over deliver and when you perform and when you bring value to people, then you will make more money, right? So when you will have money, when you have your sales and marketing pipeline figured out, then is the time to focus on branding. Why is the time to focus on branding? Because all the things that you've done before to get where you are, right? So all the things that you do in the first 2 years of business that allowed you to build your customer base, to build your client base, to make sales and to work out your marketing and a baseline of profit, those things, they got you there. Now, if you want to go to the next level, you have to change something because you can't keep doing the same thing. It's the moment that you have to change something. So that's the moment where you start to implement branding. That's when it becomes important, not before that moment. And I would say you can really quantify that moment. It's not after 3 to 4 years in business, then I can focus on branding. There is a way to know when it's time to change. And it's this: how many years have you been doing what you've been doing without actually moving out from that plateau? That's the moment that you want to use branding. If everyone else tells you at the start of your business that you need to focus on your branding, that you need to focus on having the best website ever designed, that you need to focus on your PR, things like that, they are probably trying to sell you a branding package. I do branding and I position businesses to a premium level using videos, basically branding, and I would never try to sell a package to someone who just started out. First of all, they probably can't afford me, and also if they can, that's not the best way to use their money at the start. So do not focus on branding unless you feel you are in that moment when you can afford to take your brand to a new level. Let's just start from the basic though. Let's just talk about what a brand is. So the definition of brand, my favorite definition of brand, comes from Martin Neumeyer, which is one of my personal gods. He said, a brand is not what you say it is what they say it is. And with they, he means the potential customer or the people. A brand is a person's gut feelings of a product, a service, or a company. If you think about it, it's true. It doesn't matter how much you say what your brand or your business does. If people say it differently, then you become that brand. Now, you can say I have a luxury bag brand and we made these luxury bags. That if everyone around you, all your customers say that they are cheap overseas labor made bags, then that's what you become. You can't control people's opinion about your brand. What you can do is you can shape perception, and that's what branding is good for. So how do we shape perception? First of all, the most important thing, and I know that I probably say this every single time in all of my videos, and it's something that if you have a mentor, if he's a good one, he will probably say to you every time, is you need to start with your niche. When we get extremely clear on what your customer needs, then you can start to build upon it. And you can start using your way to shape your branding so it matches what the aspirational vision is. For example, So Apple customer is creative people. At least, I mean, like before the iPhone or in general, when we talk about the computers, the actual MacBook or the iMacs is for creative people. So what they did is they created a computer that just works, that you don't have to update your software, you just plug it in and it works, and it's really powerful and it's beautifully designed. Once they figure out what the customer wanted, then they started building upon that vision. So now their product is not just for the creative people, it's for the people who think different, it's for the people who want to change the world through creativity. If you remember all of the ads before they lost Steve Jobs, most of the ads were implementing this vision, this brand vision, because it was building upon the aspirational identity of their customers. And I'm guilty of that. Like I feel if I want to buy a MacBook Pro because I feel like I can change the world with my creativity. Because what I'm doing is not just buying the actual product, I buy into the brand vision because it's aligned with my vision. Okay, Andrea, about how we can do that. What I mean when I say shaping perception, I mean using visual content, advertising, and anything that has to do with the visual part of your brand to shape the perception that people have and your potential customer have of your brand. You can start, of course, with the most classic way to do that, which is through brand identity. So your logo, your colors, your website design, all your design assets, how your brand presents itself, the easy stuff in a way. And then there is the other part, which I think is the most powerful and the best way to do it. And it's using storytelling, and especially video stories. Every time that we buy a brand, we buy into a narrative. Apple is going to make me the creative that I want to be. I can see my life in the next 10 years about becoming an amazing filmmaker because I'm using Apple products. That is like, it's a subconscious way to feel the brand. It comes from our emotion. We don't really rationalize it. What we do, we buy into this narrative and we want the brand to take us on the journey with them, to take us on this journey that we have in our head. When you buy a Louie Vuitton bag, when you buy a pair of shoes, you're not buying the quality of the shoes, you're buying the status and this narrative that comes with it. You are buying you showing up to the next social event looking amazing and people making compliments, so you actually confident enough to talk to your crush because you have an amazing Louis Vuitton bags at your side. It's that narrative that we buy into it that create the best branding opportunities. And to me, the best way to do it is to actually show it to people. Creating video content around your brand, creating customer story to see how people use your brand and how their lives change. If you have seen the latest series of mini stories that Apple did for their MacBook Pro, the new MacBook, I think it's the 16-inch, you can see how all these creative people use the MacBook to actually achieve their dreams. That's the narrative that you buy into it. That's who you want to become. And it's a really powerful way to sell the product because you're selling a feeling, you're selling a narrative. So that's the best way to build branding around your business. How can we do that? Especially if you have a coaching business or if you have like a consultancy business, it might seem like difficult for you to do that, which actually it isn't. What I actually do with my coaching clients is creating customer stories for them. So what happens is the audience can see how these people are going through this amazing transformation and they got help by the business coach or the consultant. And this doesn't shout in their face, oh, buy my stuff, but is this projection of this narrative. They buy into this narrative that if they did it, I can do it as well. If they went from 0 to $500,000, if they went to be 130 kilo to looking like the best version of themselves, I want that too. I want to buy into that narrative. At the core essence, your brand can use these storytelling, visual storytelling techniques to build upon it. Another example, if you have a yoga studio and you're only working with new mom, then you can start creating visual stories around your customer or around what it means to be a new mom and how this new mom can actually have a less stressful life because of yoga. When you give a glimpse onto your customer, onto your client's transformation story, your audience is going to associate that feeling, that transformation with your brand, therefore buy into your narrative. To recap, how do we use branding? And when do we use it? You don't focus on branding at the start. At the start, you're focusing on marketing, sales, and delivering. When you feel you reach a plateau and you want to get out of there, then is the moment to think about branding and video content. what is a brand? A brand is not what you say it is what the audience say it is. We can't control people's opinion of your business, but what we can do is we can shape perception using visual content, visual assets like your logo, your website, your colors, and all that kind of stuff, to using visual story that build on your brand narrative. I hope that you like this video. If you find it helpful, please share it with your network. If you want, leave a like and a comment, and you can discover more video on my channel. I will see you the next time.